You found us. I'm so glad you did, but I am sorry that you had to. Who are we? I'll tell you what we're not. We're not old, we're not boring, and we're not giving up. So come on into our Widow Circle where trauma meets humor, and we remind you that you can not only survive, but thrive. This is Every Widow Thing.
Hello, everyone. This is Keira, and we're back with another episode of Every Widow Thing. I'm here with Whitney, Lacey, and Holly. And today on this episode, we're going to be talking about just crazy and inappropriate encounters or things that people said to us in the wake of our tragedies and losing our husband. So does anybody have...
Well, I first want to just say the reason that we were always going to talk about this, but yesterday Keira said something that was so true, but also cracked me up about this topic. And she was like, you know, people are just gross. People are gross. And I just love that. I'm
Is
like,
that
yeah,
the name of
that's
this
so true.
episode?
This
People are
episode is
gross?
called People Are Gross.
It should be.
Even people that are trying to do something kind. Like when I first wrote on Facebook, which it felt so weird to do it, but that is one of the ways you communicate with people. And I was I had a big presence on social media at that time. I was constantly on there, you know, and
Shocking.
like posting things, and it's way calmed down since Hunter died. But so I felt the need to post something on Facebook about Hunter dying because it was going to come out of the blue. So you do your post and everyone's shocked, and several people wrote RIP. And that means rest in peace.
Yes.
And it sounds so nice, but
It's cliche. I don't
RIP.
like cliche.
RIP. And I was like, I got so upset about that.
I don't like that.
And they thought they were doing something nice, but I'm like, RIP is something that you put on a Halloween tombstone or something, or RIP is for
With
somebody.
the X's over the
You
eyes.
kill a fly in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the kids are like, rip fly.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like an emotional or a thoughtful thing. It felt flippant. You didn't even write it out.
that's the
You didn't even
perfect
write
word.
rest in peace. You wrote RIP. And I wanted to rip your fucking head off.
Well, speaking of Facebook,
Rip you a new one.
tagging on in the Facebook thing, something that happened to me is my Toby's brother's now ex-wife decided that it would be a great idea to post about the accident the day after it happened. And
Oh my God.
tag Toby and my...
What did
Love
Toby
to
say?
be the drama
What-
spiller. They love to be the
who does that?
one that gets
What-
to
and-
tell
and
the
what's
drama.
Yeah.
horrible about it is one of my best friends was traveling and he found out Toby died
Through
from Facebook.
Oh, man.
I was so pissed off. It was so inappropriate.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just beyond.
That's pretty
inappropriate.
gross. I'm
It
just
is
going to
gross.
say.
That's
gross.
That's gross. I was out early on, probably the first outing. It was a baseball game for my son, and I was still in and out of physical therapy and stuff. But I was out with my parents watching the game, and a mom sidled up and
Boy.
said, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you. I'm so happy to see you and Thomas and our boys were playing baseball, and she said, "Man, you look really good. I mean, I heard you burned up in that car."
That did not happen.
Oh, I hope she
That did
immediately
not
was mortified.
happen.
It did.
Did she recognize?
That is gross.
Did she recognize
yeah,
how
yeah.
gross that was?
I think she was trying something that I've gotten really good at, y'all, which maybe you can relate, is trying to give people grace when these moments happen. And you think,
That's
I have
ridiculous.
said some.
Be careful.
I think she was trying to say, hey, you look pretty good, all things considered.
right.
But it came out like that, and that was pretty, it was
What'd
like
you
literally
say?
my first time out in public. I used to be a person, and I still am sometimes, a person that would try to smooth it over for the other
Right,
person.
yeah.
I would try to sort of alleviate their discomfort. That still is probably my default setting, but I'm getting better at not just going into the like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. And, today if somebody said that to me, I would say, wow, that's super rude. But I didn't in the time. I was just, you're stunned. How can you not be stunned?
Right. I hate to say this, but I think a lot of people are looky-loos. It's like a bad accident. There were people at Oliver's funeral that honest to God, I don't know who they are. They were
in the pumpkin patch.
They were in the pumpkin patch, literally behind the
They
pumpkin.
left the
peeking
service
in.
with a pumpkin.
Yes, they got their half-price pumpkin because they went to the funeral. But it really, seriously, there's one that sticks out in my mind, and I'm thinking she doesn't acknowledge my presence. I see her with people that I know. Mm-hmm. She doesn't even acknowledge my presence when she sees me, and I'm thinking, you were at my husband's funeral. Like, what the hell were you there for?
Yeah.
If you don't even acknowledge you know me. That's weird. It's because she's a looky-loo. She wanted to be where
showing the community, look at me, I'm here, I'm doing the right thing.
But it's so they want to see your tragedy, see you in what's that going to look like?
Or in a weird way, it's like an event in the neighborhood. It's like I hate to say a social event, but it's like, oh, were you at so-and-so's funeral? Oh, did you see so-and-so's funeral?
It's why I didn't go to the one yesterday. I know her peripherally. Because I know how I felt. People that I didn't even know were there. It was like,
you know
you're
what? Now I feel like a gross person.
Why?
Because there was a man that I had met through this friend. Well, he died unexpectedly. And so the mutual friend connected me with the newly widowed woman through text and just said, she's having a really hard time. She's open to talking to you. And so I reached out a couple of times and we had a little text exchange, but we never met up. But she had a memorial for the husband a couple of months later. And she invited me, but I'd never met her. And so I go. I haven't finished.
But someone connected you together. This is someone that didn't know me nor him.
I did not immediately, because with those things, everybody is wanting to talk to you and get your attention and stuff. And so I had not gone up to her. In hindsight, I should have, the very first thing, gone up to her, because what ended up happening is that I'm standing in line to get a drink. Because it was an open bar and they were having like a music. He was in a band, so they were going to have all these bands playing stuff. So I did not go up to her. She sees this woman that she doesn't know standing in line to get a free drink at her husband's memorial.
You're so gross.
I am so gross. And I was embarrassed. And she was like, "Hi, I can't remember what she said. She was very gracious, but she was like, "Hi,
yeah, who are you?"
Yeah, she was like, "I'm so and so," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then it kind of hit me that, oh, I am gross.
It's human nature to be curious. It's human nature to want to, know, like, wow, I heard you caught on fire and you look okay. We all have those moments.
Who would say that?
Where we want to see the accident.
I heard you got burned up in that car.
But yeah, you've got to have some restraint. And I, honestly, one of the silver linings for me going through all this is like, I really do try to think before I speak more than I probably did prior, because I have to think like, well, are these words coming out of my mouth appropriate, off the cuff, flippant? Just be mindful and be careful. Even if you're thinking it, doesn't mean it needs to come out of your mouth.
Well, and you have to take into consideration the person. I can remember a very good friend of mine and Hunter's in California. She texted me and she said, Hunter came to me in a dream, and he had just died a week prior. Hunter came to me in a dream and he wanted me to tell you that he's okay. And you know me, I love signs. I love the dreams. I was furious. I was so mad. And this was a friend of mine. And I'm a spiritual person and she's a spiritual person. And I had to collect myself. And then I just sent a little text like, this isn't what I need to hear right now. I know he's okay. And now I'm wondering why he didn't come to me.
Right.
Why is he coming to you? So even when you're trying to be thoughtful, you're not going to get it right all the time.
Yeah.
I feel really bad. I didn't scream at her. Poor Sharon had to hear me screaming in the car. And that's something that people would think I would love to know.
That's why it's so hard. I mean, the only thing I had a funny story. This, like when we said this was going to be the topic.
Yeah.
I went back through some notes and thought this has nothing to do with anybody I know. But my best friend was at my house. She decided to stay with me after the second funeral in Germany, and she was standing at the doorway. And I was calling this company called Rhapsody Blues. I was looking at Oliver's, I stayed in business mode for a long time. That's how I cope. I have to go in my head. As y'all know, I kind of go into a hole when things are really not good. Instead of going out, I go in. And so I was doing all the paperwork and just staying really busy. And I was going through his bank account and all the drafts. I was getting rid of all of them. One of them was Rhapsody Blues. So you go in there and you click on the number, and I call them up and I said, yes, my husband Oliver, he died, and I had the death certificates and everything. I'd like to, I'm about to get rid of his checking account, and so the draft is no longer going to go through. I don't want you to wonder why it's not. So you start trying to send the bill and also service charges, I'm sure, because it'll bounce back. And they said, so how can we retain his business? And I was like, excuse me? And they were like, how can we retain his business? And Kathy's standing there watching me. I'm unaware. She's like standing right there. I said, well, unless you're going to pipe that music 6 feet under, he ain't going to be listening to Rhapsody Blues. He may be singing the blues, but he's not going to be listening to Rhapsody Blues.
Oh my gosh.
You were singing the blues.
Kathy was like, I am so worried about you right now. Like, when I got off the phone, she was like, you were just like in full on like Rhapsody Blues. You're going to be singing the blues. I wasn't even sad. I wasn't even mad at them.
No, you were, that's one of those moments where the comedy comes in.
Yeah.
And you're like, even in your grief, you recognize, oh my God, that's hilarious.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right, you're an idiot. I'm
and then
sure
they
there
go,
were
I said, can I
moments like
speak to your manager? I said, flash forward, a manager gets to the phone. I tell him, I said, I am so frustrated with your customer service rep. I'm trying to tell him, and I went through the whole story again. He did the same thing.
No, he did not.
I was like,
Well, because maybe, are they just reading from a script?
Yes.
thank you. That's
Yes.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
They're
They're
reading.
not even
They're
listening.
like, yes, Miss. They go, and then they go, they realize they can't say my last name. So they go, thank you, Miss Lacey. We're trying to retain your business. What can we do? It's $9.95. But after the second
That's
when I
when you just want
thought,
to be like, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead.
Yeah.
Dead.
the same thing happened with AT&T though. I ended up getting a free phone out of it because I got mad about because they were like trying to charge me. My husband's phone, I guess he'd gotten an upgrade or something, and they were charging the account. It hadn't shown up yet, and I was doing the draft, and I was like, you're kidding me, right? My husband just died. You're worried about collecting your extra $10 or whatever. It wasn't much. So they ended up sending me a free phone. Because I was just like, you guys are gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
You guys are gross. My husband died and you're pissed off about getting your $10 that was coming off of a draft. I said, I'll send you 20 just to shut up. It's amazing to me. And I
Customer
realized
service people that you go through,
They're reading off
I'm
a
sure
sheet.
all of us had those experiences.
nightmare.
And you guys know my Costco story, which was actually kind of recent. I think it was last Christmas, and I'm in Costco, and the guy says at the checkout, I spent a shit ton of money at Costco, and he's like, oh, you're going to get a ton of cash back because I've got some kind of executive Costco membership or something. And I'm like, what?
Ooh, fancy.
And he's like, yeah, you get cash back when you spend this kind of money. Go over there to customer service and get your money. And I'm like, oh, all right, money, yay, free money. I go to customer service and I'm like, hey, Jerry over there sent me over here. It says that y'all owe me some money. So bring it on. The woman says, okay, give me your card. And she looks it up and she's like, well, is there anybody else on the account? And I'm like, maybe Frank's on there. And she said, yes. And I said, okay, well, I didn't realize that we were a part of this program, but apparently I'm supposed to get some cash back. And she said, well, he's the primary on the account. Okay, it's been 8 years. I said he's been dead for 8 years. And she says, well, I'm going to need a death certificate.
Did you
And
just
I didn't
Google
have
it and
my
show it to
Xerox
her?
on me because it had been 8 fucking
Because
years.
Xerox didn't exist
I was no
anymore.
longer carrying the Xerox of the
Right.
death certificate in my wallet.
You could Google it and show her the obit.
I just
That's
could
what I had
not
to do.
believe. And I said, well, this is pretty interesting. I didn't lose my cool, but I said, wow, I just don't see how, I mean, this is Costco. This isn't. So I think I called one of you guys
I
right
came over
after
to your house.
I was so
you
pissed.
texted the group, I think, and was just like, I'm
I'm
crying.
like, you're
in
not going to
Costco."
believe this.
Yeah.
So, of course, months go by. I'm forgetting. Finally, and the other piece that she said, I said, well, why is this policy in place? This seems kind of silly because, I mean, I'm on there. It's not just him.
And they're taking your money for groceries.
Right. My picture's on the
All
thing.
time.
She said, well, when there's a divorce, I said, okay, so this is about divorced people fighting over their paper towel money? Like, is that what this is? I mean, 6 months probably go by. And every time, of course, I'm at Costco between then and then, I'm like, damn it, I forgot the death certificate. So I bring it, and I mean, I'm all like, look, and I'm like unfolding it and sliding it under the shield.
He's
like,
dead, y'all.
I brought the death certificate, and this poor girl that I get
Some
this
ashes
time,
too, by the way.
yeah, here's a little sprinkling of him. She's like, she just looks at me
so
and she's like, what is this? I said, this is required documentation. I was told needed to be hand delivered so that I can get my cash back.
How much did you get?
Costco. This poor girl, her face just blanches. She was mortified. She gets her manager over. The manager's more mortified. Of course, I didn't remember who I had dealt with before because it was the holidays. Again, let's just say
But that
hashtag.
wasn't even necessary.
So they were mortified. They, scurry over. They're pulling up the account. They're digging through. I walked out of there with like almost $900.
What?
Oh,
That
money
was worth it.
from all the years prior because I guess maybe they were probably sending the checks and I was just going, oh, this is for Frank. Well, he's not going to do anything with this and just threw it in the trash.
Oh my gosh.
That is awesome.
I know it was pretty awesome, but
Well,
also,
I had to go
came
through
through.
that. At
I
least you
didn't
got
know about
$900.
that.
yeah, so thank you, Costco, for making it right.
Yeah.
So,
I guess that
That's
gives
good.
us also a message too, and me included. We don't know what people are going through, so what maybe that customer service rep was just following the protocol.
I was completely nice, and I
Like
left, and I
AT&T
didn't
and-
make a scene. I'm not really a scene maker. I thought it was really hysterical. But it's like, with
Not
even the
unless
stuff you
you're
were
at
dealing
Mina
with.
Cat or Don's Depot.
Are you like, who's making up?
or
Who's making
at
up
bar
the
with
dead
Dave
husband,
Matthews.
though? Like, oh my goodness.
or in Vegas.
Now we're in trouble. You guys need to shut it down.
Anyway,
But who's making it up? Didn't you guys ever feel like, why would I make this up?
Yeah.
Why would I make up the dead husband?
right.
Well, that happened on the phone all the time with
when
I
you're
don't
trying
know,
to close things down.
Yes,
or get-
and they're like, "Well,
taken off.
it's not. It's Toby's real first name was Brian.
What?
It's Brian.
He has a
Sudduth.
first name
Yeah.
that's different than the name.
Brian Tobias.
That must have added a layer of
Would
confusion.
you date a Tobias? Okay,
Probably
we
not.
digress.
Anyway, but
She
it's
would
like
now.
it's Brian Sudduth on the account, and I'm like, well, he's dead, and they're like, well, we can only speak to him, and I'm like, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
But I had to show the death certificate,
Right.
Just like a pain in the butt.
It is a big.
It
pain
makes
in the
sense if it's banking or something, the mortgage,
These were like more
People are
smaller
gross.
things, like
Costco, or the phone bill,
But
the
they-
$10 on the phone bill. It's gross.
Yeah.
butt. But it's just like you said.
$10.
Gross.
People
the
are
Spotify
gross.
account.
There are people out there that are lying and saying that they have a dead husband so that they don't have to pay their cell phone bill.
Let's get them on the show.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
no, they're gross. They're not invited. I have a
still
story.
want her tips, though.
My poor mother, she's going to hate that I'm telling this story, but I think it is hilarious. And Mom, I know you're not gross, but the week after Hunter died, I got pictures back. We had taken pictures a couple of weeks prior. And so we're looking through them, my mom and I, and she's in shock too. And she goes, wow, Hunter looks so good. And I said, I know. And she said, you look like you could be his mother. And I was like, I literally turned to her and I go, oh my gosh, I'm putting that on Facebook. And she goes, no, you can't. And I go, I'm going to. It's hilarious. And she goes, well, I'm sorry, Whitney. You're just not photogenic. You look better in person. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you're not stopping. She swears that it didn't
You're
happen.
doubling down, Mom.
Yeah, she doubled down.
Well, I guess it's better that you look better in person than in a photo.
Yeah, I'd rather like you be pleasantly surprised.
Haven't we all
than
gotten that in our
horrified.
dating apps?
Oh my gosh.
Coach.
I had one family member say something that was wildly inappropriate, but it speaks more about them than it does you. I had to kind of like remember that. Like, I think a lot of us like couldn't eat, so I lost an enormous amount of weight. I looked terrible. But one of the family members I had to pick them up at the airport, and they were like, "You look so skinny."
Oh my god!
Like that was a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was
I heard
like,
that too.
wow.
Well, that's a problem in our culture.
Wow.
For sure.
I was like,
they go,
our
"How'd you
girls.
lose so much weight?" I go, "It's called the dead husband diet."
yeah.
You heard of it? And they were
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
I mean, wow. It's
You heard of
just-
keto?
this
It's a little more extreme.
deado."
It's a little tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
It's super easy. First,
You
your
might
husband
lose
dies,
your breadwinner.
and then so there's no bread to eat. Oh, we're going down a rabbit hole.
We are. Sorry.
Anything else? Let's end on a positive note. What are some things that people said or did that actually were comforting? Hunter's mom shared with me recently that one of the things that meant the most to her, a woman that she didn't know very well contacted her and just said, "I'm so sorry, and I would love to hear more about him. So would you like to come have coffee?"
I love that.
And she went over and she got to share who Hunter was.
Oh.
And she said that meant so much to me because a lot of people stop saying their names, stop talking,
Yeah.
especially people that you're just meeting. They don't even feel a connection
Right.
about it. So it meant so much to her. So that's definitely one way you can make people feel
Yeah.
immediately better. Say their name, ask them to share a story or
I have an interesting, it was a message I got on Instagram from a friend of Toby's that I had never met. And she's an artist. And she reached out to me. And it's funny because she messaged me on Instagram after she listened to the podcast. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I overstepped. Was this wrong? I can't believe I sent you a piece of artwork and just forced you to be my friend. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, it made me feel so close to him to get to know you, even though we still have not met in person yet. But she sent me this beautiful piece of art that she painted for Toby, or that made her think of Toby.
Yeah, I have a lot of people took the time to write me a letter, which you never get anymore, and sharing who Hunter was to them.
Yeah.
And they were people that I didn't even know, people that he had worked with, or even
I love
he,
that.
he helped one of my sister's friends when she was starting a business kind of get going and was mentoring her a little bit. And she wrote this really long, sweet letter. And I treasure those. I've got them in a little box in my bedroom. And my hope or my plan is at some point I will make a book for each kid because their memories
Frank's
get
family
fuzzy.
did that. They solicited people to write something about him and made a book for the kids.
That's
I
amazing.
think that's a
Oh, that's
great
nice.
thing
People
to do.
from before he and I met, people from high school, people from college.
I need to do that. I have,
And his parents, I'm very grateful. They spearheaded that effort and did that for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the kids.
my friends set up like cards at the memorial that people took with them. And I actually like got a card in the mail like maybe like a year ago.
No way.
It's been like 5 years that somebody.
Wow.
That's awesome. And if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, I should have done that, do it now.
Still do it.
Do it now
Yeah.
because it's just as special now as it would have been back then. Maybe even more special because you don't feel like people remember.
And be specific. My next door neighbor, they had moved off, and I think they came to the funeral, but I hadn't seen her in quite a while. And she wrote me the sweetest, most detailed about. She said, "I saw all over the way he looked at you, and I saw the way that he spoke to you when you were out with the kids playing in the." And I thought, wow, all that time. I had made a dialogue in my head that she thought I was some kind of dim, whatever, that I'm just playing with the kids in the yard.
Yeah.
And it was not at all that. She wrote this sweet letter. So if you're
So sweet.
if you're a listener and you have someone that's had something tragic, be specific like she did. I've kept all of them, but that one's my favorite.
Well, because I don't know about you guys, I'm sure you had these thoughts. After Hunter died, I felt like a lot of my memories died because the only two people that had some of those memories were him and I.
Yeah.
And we knew how we were as a couple. We knew what we did for each other.
Inside jokes and all of that. I would make the inside jokes and then I'd be like, oh, he's
There's
not
nobody here.
He doesn't get
Or the birth of your babies.
Nobody would get the reference.
Who was there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The birth of the babies, the inside jokes that nobody gets.
So
the
if you
framework.
have a memory, especially, she gave you the gift of a memory of the two of you.
Yeah. I mean,
And
but I didn't
so-
even know she was paying attention to.
Right. So that is really special because nobody in my mind, nobody knows, especially here
Right.
because he was dead. Nobody knew him here.
I forgot to add, she even sent a picture, and it was about just a couple of months ago because she knew Ryder graduated and her son graduated the year prior. It was us at her house at Halloween, and it's because I guess she didn't have a lot of pictures of me and Oliver together. And her son, I think she used it for some of his like graduation, something or other, and happened to notice he was in and mailed it to me out of the blue.
That is so
Thank
love that.
you, Amanda Iyer Ward.
Because when you
Read
go
her
back
books,
through
by
those
the way.
photos and you see something,
Yeah, you said
recall
read
there
her books.
being-
What are her books?
Amanda
Let's give her
Iyer
a
Ward, Sleep Toward Heaven is the first one. I'll remember that.
We are full of information for you guys, not only on the podcast, but on Instagram. We're getting a website set up, and we will just have so many resources for you. So continue to listen, follow us, comment, review, shoot us a DM, but don't be gross.
Bye.
It's gross out there, guys.